This week we are talking about learning with a learning tree. On the lowest branch down here, we have behaviours that are biologically pre-programmed and are therefore not classified as learned behaviour. These include simple behaviours called reflexes, like for example closing your eyes when a leaf blows in your face, and instincts, which are slightly more complex. An instinct could be a bird's display of courtship by splaying its tail and showing off its bright colours. It's not learned behaviour, but it's something that the bird instinctively knows. On the next branch, we have some simple forms of learning. Habituation occurs when the behavioural response decreases with repeated exposure to a stimulus. When you first go outside to garden, you might notice the sounds of birds chirping. However, the longer you spend outside on your task, the more you learn to fade the sound out so you can focus on what's important, your gardening. Sensitization is the opposite phenomenon, which is more likely to happen when the stimuli signals danger. For example, if you cut your hand with gardening scissors, you might draw your hand back faster when it comes close to the blade again, even though it doesn't hurt. Next, we have associative learning, which involves making associations between two stimuli or events. One type of associative learning is called classical conditioning, developed by Ivan Pavlov, and it occurs when a response becomes associated with a specific stimulus. Before conditioning, we start with an unconditioned or unlearned stimulus, such as bird food, and an unconditioned or unlearned response, like birds flocking to the food when it is put out. This is a natural response or instinct, as birds will naturally be attracted to seek food sources for survival. We also have a neutral stimulus, like the sound of a bell, which does not naturally elicit the response of birds flocking to it. As we move up through the tree, we see the process of acquisition. During conditioning, the unconditioned response of bird food is brought out at the same time as the bell, and the birds flock to the food. This is known as the acquisition stage. The strength of the conditioning depends on timing too. The bell needs to be run just before the food is brought out to the tree, or as it is being brought out, to ensure good conditioning. With repeated exposure of this pairing, the bell in itself becomes the conditioned or learned stimulus, and when it is rung, elicits the new conditioned or learned response of the birds flocking to the tree. However, with repeated exposure of the bell and without the food, a process called extinction occurs, where the connection between the bell and the birds flocking is gradually weakened as the conditioned stimulus stops being a reliable indicator of the bird food.